This is the Enfield Planning Board. It's September 13th, 2023. I am calling the meeting to order at 6:31. Members present from my left, starting with Linda.
Linda Jones.
Eric Russell.
Dan Kiley.
I'm David Frack.
Bill Vermeer. Brad Rich. Tim Jennings.
And staff.
Rob Taylor.
Whitney Banker.
Okay, we have a full complement of regular members this evening. And Linda, good to see you back from the frozen north.
Yeah, thank you.
Such as it is.
It was.
Was it really cold?
No, it was in 40 to 45.
Is that normal for this time of year? Okay.
For Spitsbergen.
Mhm. Okay, so first public comments. I don't see anybody from the public except the Pellorins. So we'll move on to select board report from Eric.
Yeah, so the last meeting, we had a public hearing regarding short-term rentals and that potential ordinance. It was very well attended. I think there were 70, 75 people there. And a lot of great comments. So the next steps for that are we're doing a revision of the draft with everything we've heard and the input we've gotten. Because a lot of people have also sent in input outside of that hearing. And then the second part of the meeting was the folks from Holly Drive came in and explained some of the situation around the water runoff from one of the recent storms. And we had a discussion around that and how it applies directly to Holly Drive, but also how it expands to sort of the entire town as storms get larger and we get more water runoff, and the need to sort of plan for that in the future, both short term, but also long term. No decisions were made because there's not an obvious solution, but it's something we need to deal with. And other than that, it was sort of business as usual type items.
Okay. Rob, land use administrator report.
Let's see. Things remain fairly busy. Obviously coming to an end on summer activities and starting to plan for winter. We're in the budget season, getting prepared for departmental budgets. Working on that with Liam, who's our building inspectors. He and I prepare each of our respective budgets, and they're due in the next week or so for town manager and consideration in that direction. They'll be obviously making their way up eventually to the budget committee. Have worked with select board and with Ed and general department heads on some strategic work. We did have maybe a month ago or so, we had a meeting of the select board and department heads together. And then in not too distant past, we had a departmental head session where we were working on some strategic work to follow up on what we did with the select board. Ed has town manager Ed has tasked each department head to come up with some ideas to sort of fit in with those strategic goals, how each department can impact and have effect on some of those strategic goals. I think it's really good exercise to sort of think about things a little more in less 1 year blocks, as we tend to do in municipal. Start to push that time horizon out a little bit more and start thinking a little bit more long term, how we can all play a part in the future of Enfield. And so that's good exercise working on that. We've just got something due next week for the town manager to look at. He's going to eventually bring it back to select board. We had a very sad thing happen here. You probably all have heard. Last week we lost a coworker in the sewer and water department, a guy named Norm Rule, who was a coworker. He was our right-hand man in terms of water sewer in town. He had a massive heart attack and passed away suddenly, age 40, almost 48, 47. And, that's really hit us hard here. Everybody's pretty sad in this, building. They had the memorial service for him yesterday at the church on Main Street. Calling hours were Monday. So that's really made us all kind of enemy a little bit around here. It's really tough to lose somebody like that at a young age with a family, and kids and grandkids. And so, this building's kind of somber lately. A very tight knit group. So that's hit us hard, but, not much to report on in terms of the big developments. David had asked me that earlier today. I haven't had a recent conversation with them. When I say recent, the last 2 weeks. I probably talked to Laramie Farms, the most recent. I talked to John DiPotetto. They told me that they are working on stuff. That was maybe 2 weeks ago when I talked to him. And we're waiting for word back from, the Schindberg folks. They're doing some work on their end to sort of give us some more firm idea what they would like to do. And this is in relation to our discussions about the urban compact idea that I think you guys had heard about. Select board had also discussed with them at a not too distant meeting. There's likely a buyer for the big piece of land off of 4A, what I call the Blue Ox Farm lot.
Mhm.
It's about 25 acres, has very limited access on 4A. There's a little sliver about 40 feet wide that takes you across the Knox River. There's a very primitive bridge that will get you over there. And then there's a nice meadow there that I think Steve Fulton used to raise organic produce on. I've taken a lot of calls from interested parties on that bridge and what is entailed in upgrading that bridge, whether it needs to be upgraded. I think everybody has agreed that it does need upgrading because it's more of a farm bridge for a tractor access to that back field. And so I've been advising everybody that calls, it's, you had to work with DES. Obviously shorelands impacts, most likely wetlands impacts. I don't think any concrete company or general contractor would cross it without some kind of improvements to that bridge. So we'll see what happens there. I think there's likely a buyer there. We'll see. There's actually a little bit of an uptick. I don't know if you've seen this. If you're watching real estate, it seems like there's more properties on the market right now. There's some really nice properties coming on. There's a few building lots, including down on Bog Road. Mr. Conkey is trying to sell one of his building lots right at the edge of his gravel pit. And his actual residence next to that lot is actually for sale. I've seen it in Plainfield too. It seems like real estate is changing a little bit. Values are still very high, but inventory seems to be ticking up just slightly. So that's certainly, taking a lot of calls. There's a lot of prospecting in my job. People calling, what can I do with that land? What can I do? That kind of stuff. So we take a lot of those kind of calls. I've been assisting, there's a new committee that the select board named for Methodist Hill. I attended their most recent meeting, which was maybe a week or so ago, to discuss what was possible on that property up on Methodist Hill. It's about 100 acres with a lot of road frontage. Obviously it's in the R5, so it's limited in terms of what you can and can't do. Obviously five-acre lots minimum. It's fairly wet site. We did have some really good representation at the meeting from some people that have cruised the lot and actually, walked the boundaries and inspected it carefully. And so I think there's possibility for some lots to be subdivided there if that's what they recommend to do. I don't think it's gonna be maximum developable. I think, obviously there's probably a future of mixed, maybe some conservation land, maybe some trails and so forth. We'll see what they come up with for ideas. The committee we've informed all the abutters, the 200-foot abutters to that property. Their next meeting, they will host the abutters to come in and talk and what they would like to see happen there. So that's good. Zoning board, we had a meeting last night. 2 variances on the agenda. We only had 3 of 5 zoning board members show. So one of the applicants said, gonna exercise my right to wait till the next meeting because you need 3 yes votes for approval. And if you only have three, it makes your chances much more slim to get it. So they walked away. The other applicant said, you know what, give it a shot. And they ended up getting their approval, zoning approval for a subdivision of less than 3 acres in the R3. So you'll be seeing them. They'll be coming into you for a subdivision. That is kind of interesting. It was 2 lots. One was a 1 acre lot and one was like a 20 acre lot. And I think it was Steve Fulton.
It was Steve that came in, yeah.
He came in, had you guys merge it.
Yeah.
I think it was a bank request that the lots become singular ownership. And so this guy, the current owner, has plans to, he's living in the old farmhouse there. He wants to build a new house. So he wants to divide it and he doesn't want it to be 3 acres. He wanted it to be the 1 acre, which is basically returning it to its previous state. And zoning board actually, to their credit, supported that. It was sort of a nicely defined lot with stone walls when it was 1 acre. And so they gave him the variance to be able to do that. So you'll be seeing them as soon as the owner can get a surveyor to help him do that work for, maps and Mylars, monumentation, all that kind of stuff. So we did get an application from your previous meeting, one of the Scott Sanborn ones that we were talking about. I think it was Lower Shaker Village, that you guys had additional approval, so long as they had obtained a equitable waiver from the ZBA. So we do have that application for the next meeting, which was a month from last night in October. There definitely seems to be a little uptick in activity. You guys got some stuff. You'll be seeing a major site plan at the next meeting in 2 weeks for a large expansion of Mr. Niddle's woodworking business, wood shop on Smith Pond Road. I just got an application in today for a voluntary merger. So it seems like, zoning board activity has sort of picked up a little bit, and you guys obviously are busy. We've got an application tonight, but at least a couple for your next meeting. So perhaps people, after the summer is done, they start thinking about what they want to do and get done as the weather changes. And so look forward to continuing to work with you guys, and I'll keep you up to date. Anything else that happens. That's about it for me right now.
Okay, any questions?
Two
Jim?
things, Rob.
Yep.
The ZBA's decision on that application you just described, we'll have that as part of the package.
Yep.
Before the applicant.
Absolutely. Because the variance is absolutely essential. You guys couldn't do it without that approval. So it'll absolutely be a part of the application package that you get. I'll make sure of that.
Thank you. Second thing, any ADU activity?
Yeah, there's actually been, Liam, our building inspector, has been seeing a fair amount of people on the sort of, what do I gotta do front. And as I said, maybe last time, we were talking about maybe hosting some kind of an event later this year, maybe in the fall, to help. I had a great interaction with a community, it was Peterborough, where they had done that and sort of helped people sort of figure out what is entailed in ADU. Certainly a hot topic. Liam he did some virtual training with the Building Inspectors Association today. They think the Building Inspectors Association that he's a member of and does a lot of training with, they think that in this next legislative session, David, you'll be right in the middle of it, that there will be a proposal to make statewide 2 ADU a reality. There was a proposal in the last session for 4 ADUs, and that was too much, I think, for the legislature to bear. But maybe the 2, and maybe with some of our leadership, as well as Dover is the other community in the state that has gone that route. And, it certainly, what we did in March didn't bust open floodgates and everybody start coming in going nuts for 2 ADUs by any means. There's a planning cycle, there's kick the tires, look at your budget, figure out if you can do it. But certainly ADUs are happening in the Upper Valley. Absolutely. I've got one in my house and I've got friends that have them, and it's starting to become much more prevalent, I will say. And I'm excited for that because it really is no skin off anybody's chin, you know, that it's shoehorned into typically into existing buildings and, you know, you can drive by and have no idea there's an ADU in there. So, I was just talking to a guy up on Maple Street who wants to do it. Basically, he wants to do it so he gets single floor living for himself and he wants to rent out the rest of his house for, you know, retirement income. You know, as you get older, you don't need lots of space. The kids have moved out, sort of a natural progression. So I think there's gonna be that kind of stuff happening. We'll see if we can help out too with some information. I do have a bank signed up to help us lead financial consideration discussion. Liam has volunteered to talk about, you know, permitting and building code, things like that. He did say that the Builders Association they're trying to strike that balance, and like, how much do we regulate from the fire separation, sprinklers, multifamily, and how much do we make it easier for people to be able to build this kind of housing? Obviously, the building inspectors are leaning towards staying on top of the regulation and pushing hard for fire separation, but you gotta strike a balance there because if you make it too difficult from a regulation standpoint, people are not gonna build it. It's just not, especially in existing inventory or existing housing stock. Because I had a fight when I built my ADU about exactly that. And our building inspector in Playfield was like, oh, you gotta put all this fire separation in. No, you don't. It's not an ADU. And we sort of went back and forth and ultimately the town decided to call it an extra bedroom for me. So that actually was a loss for them and a win for me. But so we'll see. Another question.
Yeah, related, the quarter acre zoning change to quarter acre zoning in the R1, has that generated any interest?
Certainly from the Laramie Farms guys, it has. Those guys have looked at it as very beneficial to potential of their development. And I think they were very excited about that change. Not so much, you know, in terms of in the R1 around here yet. I mean, again, I think that's one of those things that's gonna take a little time to ferment and mature. So we'll see.
Rob?
Yeah.
Update on the Shed Street cleanup?
Oh, yeah, so we put out an RFP for demolition and remediation. As you guys know, that's the old Public Works facility. Closed in 2003, but has continued to be used in a few different ways by us. We park equipment there that's not needed for a long time, like the roller in the winter time, things like that, bale chopper. And so anyways, at town meeting, we had set aside, I think it was 70 grand for the cleanup and remediation of that site. And the lowest bid came in from Hammond for the demolition and remediation at 150K. So we're gonna need more money to be able to do that. So we're looking at perhaps phasing it, maybe do one building at once. I don't know if that makes sense. There is asbestos in the left-hand building, because that was, before we used it, it was a kiln. They actually built boxes there. And they actually had, one of the rooms was designed to be a kiln. So if you go in, it's kind of got like this soot on the walls, and that is actually a coating that has asbestos in it. And that's one of the major drivers of the cost, because anything that's hazardous, such as lead and asbestos, has to be hauled to a special landfill over in I believe it's in the Lakes region, the special lined landfill that drives up the cost tremendously. They can't just crunch and munch it, take it to Lebanon landfill like you hope. It's fairly complicated, but the good news is the RPC did get the grant from the EPA for more brownfields work. So they'll be able to help us with other sites if we can identify any other sites in Enfield. Obviously, we're working region wide, so we're working a lot of projects in Claremont, Lebanon, and always looking for new sites if anybody knows of any. That's what that money is for, is mostly the places that have been abandoned and there's no viable entity in charge of it anymore. Unfortunately for us, we are still a viable entity, so we get humped with the real costs of the cleanup. Even though technically, it's not our mess. The kiln is not our mess. It's our building. And we're still financially sound enough that we have to pay for it. So I would say that likely it's gonna be in as a budget item, maybe from fund balance again, to get the money that we need, 150 total, put it with, 70 in that we already got set aside. And we have had a couple of serious developers come to talk to us and look at that site, and they're very excited. For one, you guys did the special zoning district down there. For two, it's a nice little residential neighborhood, proximity to the rail trail, sewer and water. So it's got a great potential, and I would think in the next 12 months, we will have it cleaned and prepped for future development. It's funny that one last thing about that is that a big part of the cleanup there is actually railroad ties, which is, again, not our mess, but it's there. And when they do the site evaluation, they see it and they put it on the list. You gotta clean up the railroad ties. So we'll actually have to get permission from the state to go out in there, and they have to cut some trees because they set all the railroad ties end to end on the rail trail into the bushes in the right of way. But we'll have to, at least in that general vicinity, we'll have to clean it up. So,
Okay, any other questions on Rob's report? Next, we'll do the minutes from our August 23rd meeting. Linda?
Since we have people waiting, could we just reverse the order of minutes in the hearing?
I'm certainly willing to do that. Is the board concur?
Yes, sure.
Okay, we'll do that. So we are going to, do the minutes later, and we're gonna do continuation of the hearing for land use case number P 230803. Vicky Pellerin has applied for major site plan review approval to add a bingo hall entertainment venue to the used auto sales use in the space currently occupied by Shaker Valley Auto at 453 US Route 4, tax map 14, lot 69. Parcel is owned by Carl and Vicky Pellerin and is 2.17 acres. It is located in the Route 4 zoning district. We kind of started this hearing 3 weeks ago. And we went over some of the things that were missing. And it looks like you've done a good job of filling in a lot of that stuff. At that time, and I think still now, the big elephant in the room is your sewage wastewater. Has any resolution been met on that? Yes?
You go,
All right, it's, where is it?
Chris Rollins.
Chris Rollins, so she's contracted with him, and I don't know how far.
He's the one who actually did the,
Oh, yeah, right there.
yeah, right there.
Yeah, so
The
he,
plan for the septic design for Robert LaCroix back in 86, 87,
Mhm.
88. So this is the original. So Chris Rollins is working on that because, of course, you know that it was supposed to be used for a car wash.
Yeah.
And it never developed. But seeing it was for a car wash, it was put in there as plenty of, there's, what do they call them?
Chambers.
Chambers, thank you. 3 chambers for the water to go through. So Chris is working on this only because also I'm going to have a kitchen. I'm adding a kitchen, so now the state's involved. So he is looking to make sure that we can have a kitchen with 80 to 100 people in the building at a time.
Is Chris a licensed septic designer at
Yes.
this point in time?
Yes,
Okay,
so what our plan is. See when he comes back to, then go forward from there to the,
he
Oh my
should be
Lord.
done Friday, I
Uh-huh.
believe.
but I would just, yeah, we're just waiting for him to get his ducks in a row.
okay. You're very lucky to have gotten him on such
Yeah.
short notice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
So in that case, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't reopen the hearing and go through the criteria. So it's an existing site and parking, loading and safety. Do you want to describe, and give us some numbers here?
Yeah.
About what's, what's up or how many cars you can park in what area?
So if you notice on the, we'll start with the orange. So that's kind of right, that's right on Route 4. That's where they park them now. So that's the for sale cars.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we move up to the, well, let's go through the orange. And so the orange, that is all the for sale cars. And it's, basically like the first, Route 4 is single space. Then as you go to the beside
of
the
the
building,
Yeah,
those are gonna be front to back.
Mm-hmm.
So that orange piece, if you move up, yep, right there. So those are double spots.
So that's for 20, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And those can get, as bingo starts,
we'll
they can
move
park
them.
right in front. No, we're not gonna move
We're
those.
not gonna move them?
No, those ones will stay right there. People can park right in front of them, no big deal. Same, and then if you go further in the lot, you go by, which is the detail shop. And then it goes back to, that's kind of where everything really opens up. And those are double spots, again, front to back.
Mm-hmm.
And I just put 2 of them on there, but there's obviously enough out behind that too, but, then we go to the, pink. And we'll start at the front again, and then basically the front of the building has got the handicap spots, the handicap van access. And then it travels all the way down in front of the used cars, right to the end. And then I just put around the detail shop for single spot, probably at an angle right around. Then we go to the back lot, or not the back lot, but the side, which is 12 cars. That's right against there's all these shrubs. That's kind of the boundary line right there. And then beside the car wash building is basically a line for cars just to drive in and park. So what I got for that, I came up with 85 roughly spots for the sales. That was for the sales. Yeah, so then, and those can be, I mean, like say, we take over tomorrow for car sales, and I think there's probably like 35 cars. So we're not gonna have,
200 like
yeah, we're not
Robert
gonna have
used
200
to have.
cars. It'd be nice if we did, but,
But
I
not
don't-
right this
yeah.
time.
And then the blue is just, that's where Robert's always pushed his snow. Cause the terrain it just naturally runs that way.
Yeah.
So he's always put it there, so it's nice to get, we were putting it on the upper side, on our side before. Our snow on the left-hand side, but the problem with that is when it melts, it runs back across the asphalt.
Yeah.
And creates some problems.
And freezes.
And
Yeah.
freezes, and then we have a mess.
So, yeah, so we started last year pushing it all to that side, and it's worked out really good. Yeah, anybody have any questions on this, on the different colors?
Well, I'd like to make a comment. And Mr. Pellerin and I met, probably 2 weeks ago to discuss what was missing. We kind of agreed, we did agree that on the average, there would be 2 people from the bingo hall per car. So basically, I asked him to take the maximum capacity of the bingo hall, divide it by 2, and that would be the requirement for number of parking spaces, rather than go by, what our regs say, which is based on square feet, which didn't make a whole lot of sense considering the use. So that's how we arrived at that figure, and if anybody thinks that that is something that we need to discuss or amend, I think now is the time to talk about that. Is there any objection to that?
No, because it
formula?
looks like he's got close to 65 in the pink.
He's got
what he's saying.
67, he
So
said.
that's what, okay, I don't know. I don't-
More than.
You're over here. See, I'm over here.
Okay.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
is If they're gonna have a maximum of probably 85 people, then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're
Maximum.
So we
more,
were,
more than covered.
Right.
so we were shooting, with Liam, of course, we're going back and forth with Liam right now on, we're trying to see, what we have, as you see, one of your plans will show the table layout, which is for 88 seats.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure all that in with, fire codes and, so
Plus,
I would say if Liam basically, when I talked to him yesterday, it was, we were at 88, but then we could go to 120. So I figured with the 67, we're
That's,
gonna cover.
plus
you're
on,
still good.
Yeah.
on the ground.
Yeah.
Also, people gonna be able to park at the parks place because that's gonna be closed at
Right.
night.
Yeah, I mean,
Half the spots in the service area, it's not this lot, it's the next lot, but they
Yeah.
can park there too.
yeah, and I
And a
didn't
lot
get,
of people are gonna.
yeah, and I didn't get crazy with going to the other side of
No,
the
no.
street, just,
Right.
but you know that's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen
Happen, there's no way.
They
around
wanna
it.
be as close as they
Exactly.
can to the building.
in order to get out
Yes.
first.
Oh, yes.
And I think to me, it fits,
Yeah.
to me, that front stretch, when you come in we'll just say the right of way, I mean, that's given.
Right.
That's a massive amount for anybody that does have a hard time walking or whatever, they'll have
Right.
plenty of spots to get in there and
Yeah.
get situated, and like she'll tell you that, the people that need to get in there first and wanna get their seat or whatever, they're gonna show up. They're gonna show up
They'll-
early.
They'll show up early.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm satisfied that the parking situation is more than enough at this point, so.
So you-
Let's-
May I?
Tim, go ahead.
It's just curious here, this right of way is not, not dividing this parcel. You own both of these buildings, right? And
We do in it, but it goes out to the third.
Out to Robert's
It
third.
goes out
The
to the-
Chinburg property has a
Yeah.
right of way through
Yeah.
there.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, so that was put in
so he can access.
so he can
Right.
access it, but I mean, I don't see how they're ever really, other than bringing it, well, not even bringing in, cause they can come in, from, Lovejoy Brook just to get their equipment in or whatever, but
Mhm.
I don't see him using that as anything other than that.
Okay,
Yeah, I
and
think this kind of points out, it was just an aside here, when we get into zoning rewrites, how trying to come up with formulas to calculate parking is just a fruitless exercise, I think. If there wasn't any requirements in here, they obviously wouldn't be putting in a building and
right,
commercial establishment didn't have enough parking to service its patrons. So,
agreed.
Yeah, Robert LaCroix used to have 225 cars in that parking lot.
And it works both ways. If you look at Walmart had to put in that many parking spaces in West Lebanon because that's what the regulation said. Even though that there's 2 days of the year that 3/4 of the parking spaces are going to be used.
Yeah.
Because they put in maxes and minimums.
Yeah,
When you're right, a business knows what they need for. If they don't have enough, it's gonna hurt them.
I believe at our last meeting, oh,
I
Eric, I'm
just
sorry.
have a technical question, because they have plenty of parking.
Right.
But I think we define parking spaces as 10 by 20, is that correct?
we did.
Right, so we should probably adjust. They still have plenty of parking.
Yeah, we had it nine.
Yeah, you have them
uh,
9 by 18.
Because I think-
I think- Yeah,
So,
they
yeah,
have plenty
right.
of parking.
Yeah,
This shouldn't hold anything up, but we should have it counted based on how we define it, because we define it that way. And to Tim's point, that's kind of silly.
agreed.
There might be one thing that would. I'm not that familiar, I'm not familiar enough, even though I drive by there twice a day, every day. Would people attempt to park along Route 4?
No.
There's no parking allowed
Yeah.
there.
Well, is there no parking?
There's no,
Signs.
there's
There's no
no
space.
parking, there's no signs, but,
There's no shoulder.
Yeah, there's no shoulder there
yeah, we,
whatsoever.
I've never seen it.
That's
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean.
I mean, the only thing somebody might do would be to try to park in Bobby's lot across the street.
Yeah,
Right,
And
yeah.
walk across the road.
right, or.
But
But I
why,
would-
why would you do that when
No,
you've
no,
got?
that's not- I would, but if
But
somebody were to look for something that's
Yeah.
not on this lot,
Yeah.
Right.
that's what they would look at.
I think there's,
Easy
think
getaway,
too-
that's what
There
that
you go.
is.
Yeah.
I know all about that.
Right, I go to the ATM, I get my money, I park my car there at the bank.
Yeah,
That's their
there you go.
And, the retaining wall right there, but I believe there's a hydrant too.
Yeah,
So it's not a great,
Yeah.
it's not a great spot for somebody to,
no, it's
Sit there.
the narrowest part of
Yeah.
Route
Well,
4
like I
there.
said, just
Yeah.
think of the $10,000 bingo pot, you know.
That's right.
Really have a lot of people show
I
up.
think there are some no parking signs in the bushes.
Is there?
Maybe closer to
Yeah.
Lovejoy.
Closer to Lovejoy
Yeah.
there is, yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of hidden by trees.
Okay, I believe last time you said that you're, in contact with the state regarding a new driveway permit.
no, we got that,
You got,
yeah.
okay,
Should have had that in an email with their packet.
okay, good.
Yeah, we had that, to, Chris Turgeon, and he passed it to Ross Wool.
Okay,
Yeah, the state's happy.
He just said no changes were needed.
okay. So water drainage, anything planned to, any changes? in
No, they actually have
elevation
a-
or Surface,
To us, they have a good, they've got multiple catch basins. They show
yeah,
one, two, yeah, they show them on that. parking. Everything slopes
away.
To the
to the basins and, Stearns is coming tomorrow to clean the catch basins out.
Okay. Next is exterior lighting and signs, and if I remember correctly, you gave us some info
Yep.
on the types of fixtures that you're gonna use.
Yeah, they should be on,
They threw them into one of these maps.
they should be on the packets that were, she got them from Home Depot, the
Yeah.
Yeah,
covered
they're on
tops,
there.
Mm-hmm.
and then I marked them on.
Yep,
We didn't have, we
Yeah.
don't have really much to add because he already had the kind of the same covered tops that are there. She's just been replacing them as they've burned out. I think, but we just gotta add a couple more for the front of the main building.
Mhm.
Other than that, the lighting there was, and I think they shut the,
The big beam.
they had a
off.
big one that came down through and I
Yeah.
think that's shut off now.
Yeah.
okay. Signage, what are you doing?
Sign, that
Sign.
should be in your packet too.
You
So-
can say-
Basically, the
So,
existing
The only
sign
thing,
structure,
we're
change
just,
the names.
yeah, we're just taking what they have off, yeah,
That works.
Have you got a new name for the dealership?
I think it's just gonna be Helen Automotive, just carry it over.
Okay. Dimensional guidelines, so you're not putting any new buildings in, so basically everything is as it is, so that's all grandfathered. The water supply, is that on well or did you connect to town water?
So this these two buildings, the ones we're talking about, they are well water.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other side has, half of it is on town water. I'm
Okay.
not sure why he had it that way,
These
but
two,
yeah.
because we're
You
on the
said,
well too.
That you had to have samples for the Department of Health.
Oh, yeah, and she got those. Your water samples.
But I do.
Well, you don't have to have them. I'm just-
You don't
yeah,
have
you're
to
right.
have them.
She had to send them
That's
in.
regulated by the.
She had
Oh,
to,
yes, on
not
Etna
ours.
Road. Yes, they came back. Everything was good.
so for
That's right.
the kitchen,
Not
she had to
ours.
have,
That was
the
the
samples.
Yeah, do you know if you have enough capacity?
Yes. Because that one also, the well was made for the,
Car wash.
and then it was actually a 4-bay car wash.
Mm-hmm.
And, so yeah, we feel that, the well is, so far so good.
Okay,
They certainly have an immediate backup in case it isn't.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah,
Downtown.
Yeah,
okay, we've already talked about sewage disposal and
Just
just,
question there.
Go ahead, Tim.
Just a curiosity, where is the septic leach field?
so let's,
Where?
Right behind this building,
Yeah,
right there.
right.
Behind the car wash.
No.
it's in-
No,
it's
Before
actually-
it's in front, it's between the two buildings.
Yeah.
So it's basically right in here, this section, right here.
That's all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
is that,
it was nine,
is that under pavement?
half,
happened.
I think it's half of it is pavement and
Half is
half of it is
dirt.
crushed stone. Yeah, I think it was 900 gallons, a day.
So the condition is that the existing septic, if it's going to be left in operation, could be assessed to be adequate for the purpose or municipal sewer connection.
I thought the rule, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm new to this, but I thought the rule was that if the property was sold, it had to go to town sewer and
Well,
water.
that's a.
That's a select board issue,
That's a select board
We're
issue.
just saying either or.
right.
Yeah.
Well, no, or we can just make the condition that it be approved, that the septic be approved by the select board.
That's what we're kind of going off.
It's
of
up to
is-
them to make the decision
Yeah.
whether or not. Cause I suspect they're going to ask for. If you don't wanna connect, then you've gotta prove to us that the system works for you.
Right.
So
That's why we're going.
that's why it's a
Chris
select,
Wall and-
it's a select board issue, cause we can't tell them they have to connect. Cause only the select board can tell them they have to connect.
Eric, you comfortable with that
Well,
as a select
but I
board?
think what Tim's getting at is if the select board makes a decision to allow the septic, and there's no condition that the septic has to be improved, the select board's not going to make conditions necessarily. They're
Right.
not required to make a decision on whether the septic's good or not.
No.
That would be
Okay,
a
that would
planning
be something that we
requirement,
do.
correct. It's a
Okay,
sort of a convoluted
be-
thing.
Yeah,
I
it
think
could-
that's what Tim's getting at.
right.
If it's a septic, it's a planning thing. If it's the sewer, it's a select board thing. And you don't wanna miss it somehow.
okay.
On technicality.
I think I understand, and the appropriate language will be developed for the decision.
Yeah.
So we've covered that, snow removal, you've drawn in where your snow storage is, so that point is taken care of. ADA compliance,
Yeah, it should be, from Liam. We have the doors, we have the door openers, we have to make the ramps at the openings per Liam, per his, yeah. Bathrooms, yeah, we're expanding the bathrooms to make them fit, so, yeah,
okay. Floodplain, is that in a floodplain?
no,
I didn't think so. Solid waste and recycling, we talked about that last time, and are you still planning on putting it over on the other lot?
we're gonna be contracting with the trash company to pick that up.
Yeah, but where is the dumpsters or whatever?
Right now, the dumpsters are
This or up this way.
over here. Well, yeah, we're getting, but those are gone.
Okay.
So they're sitting right there, right now on the other building.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Okay.
on the,
Out back where the sand shed is.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's where the original, or his
Right.
were. Now, we're just using our other ones, which are right here. So
Okay,
they're around,
Okay.
around.
around the corner, yeah.
So
Yeah.
there-
His were out by the sand shed.
Right,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right up in here they are.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there you go.
And you're gonna put some sort of fencing around them, right?
We weren't planning on it.
That's part of the deal.
Well, it says, all such facilities shall be screened from sight from abutting properties and streets.
So what I was planning on was my trash company picking them up right at that facility.
And screen from the street,
Yeah, I guess it
and
is.
you are your own abutter.
How about on the other side? How about on the other side?
We have George coming.
Is it
That's
this
all.
one?
around and
that's
picks
all.
up all our trash.
The hillside.
Oh,
It's a hillside,
Yeah.
forested hillside, so
Yeah,
it's
you
very.
On person, and not trying
Yeah.
to screw with
No, no.
anybody, but our trash truck will probably just drive over
Right,
and they'll throw it in the trash truck and it's in there.
right,
Okay.
It's-
And
And
it
it's-
sets in the
It
back.
doesn't
Yeah.
make, it
yeah,
doesn't make a lot of sense to take it from
No,
there, to bring it
'cause
over
that's-
to the dumpster, dump it.
and that's all,
and then do it
that's
again.
all screened back there anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Safety review, police chief and fire chief. You're working with Liam, so
Right.
I think, he's up on code.
Yeah, I think he's pretty, everything he's asked or whatever, we're
Yeah, he
doing.
was here
Yeah.
yesterday afternoon and approved what we've done so far, so.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um,
the chief is definitely aware, so is
Yeah.
so is the fire chief.
I would have thought, I would have thought
John's
so.
the deputy chief.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Okay.
So you are intimately
Yeah,
acquainted with it.
And they're well positioned with where the new facility's gonna be.
right,
Yeah.
yes,
All right, natural and historic features, I don't think we need to discuss anything because nothing really is gonna be changed. So that's pretty much it for our review criteria. Board members have any questions for the Pellorins? No, no. All right, I'm going to Phil?
Bingo.
Bingo.
You're gonna come to bingo? Okay.
So I'm gonna close the public hearing and, would somebody care to put a motion on the table that we can discuss?
I make a motion, we approve the major site plan review for the Pellorins with the condition that they have an approved septage plan.
Or connect to,
Well, that would be their plan,
That covers both.
Yeah.
that covers them both,
oh, okay, yes.
right? It's a plan, it's the plan,
Okay.
yeah.
So
Septage?
Septage.
No,
Oh, that's a good word.
You just made it up.
septic is what you find in your septic tank.
Right,
and in your
that's the
leach field.
septage.
Okay.
The criteria is a little.
I'll second that.
Wait.
Okay,
Too late.
the motion is on the table, we
We
can
can-
discuss.
We can discuss.
Tim?
Well, I guess you have to second it before we can, so anyway,
Right.
yes, but I think the criteria is just slightly more specific than that. It's that if the existing septic is intended to be used, in other words, that the town says you can continue to use it, then it needs to be assessed by a licensed designer to ensure that it's suitable for the use proposed.
That's their plan.
That's their plan.
Chris Rollins
Is a
is a licensed septic designer.
Yeah, I think,
currently.
I agree with you, Tim. That,
Well,
it's gotta say that,
But that's what the conditions.
Yeah,
the,
okay,
the
right.
condition, yeah,
So, words to that effect.
Mhm.
that they either connect to the town's septic
Sewer.
municipal sewer, or have a plan approved by a licensed septic designer,
Yeah,
septic designer,
That's what he is.
yeah,
yeah,
For the intended.
For the
use.
intent.
for the
Yeah.
intended use.
isn't that what I said?
Yeah,
Works. That's good.
okay, just to,
That's good.
yeah, I agree.
Second that again.
Do you need to clarify that it would also have to be approved by select board or not necessary?
No, because it's going to them
It's
first.
going to them.
Yeah, because the select board has purview regardless of the decision
That's right.
made
Right.
here. And so it's kind of either here or there.
It's like we couldn't make a condition that they have to hook up because we
Right.
don't have the power to make them hook up.
Right.
Only the select board does.
And the select board doesn't have the power to enforce sewer regulations.
That's right,
Right,
that's right.
Sorry,
Yeah,
septic
like septic
regulations. So
regulation,
that's the confusion.
yeah,
this multi-jurisdictional stuff.
Right.
It's
right.
confusing, but I think we,
Yeah, I think.
I think we're all on the same
I think
page.
so. I think you covered it.
I think we all agree.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table with a condition. Is there any more discussion? All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you, guys.
Hey,
Okay,
Thank you.
Third time's a charm.
thank you.
That's right.
Isn't this
Now I
only
just gotta
second?
get through the state.
Thank you.
now second, first one was conceptual,
Oh, that's right. 3 times we've seen them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
right.
All right.
Those are fi- okay,
So I
58
will have a
days.
written decision for you within a couple of weeks, but, you know, for now, proceed, as if we had, or we have approved it.
Yeah.
Right.
And, be aware that there is a 30-day period when our decision can be appealed.
Yep.
And that 30-day period starts tomorrow.
Yeah, it's usually on the last day. If it happens. Yeah,
Right.
perfect.
There being nobody here, I think your chances of anybody appealing this is probably pretty slow, but.
But, you know,
Can happen.
you never know, and,
Can happen.
Can only be in a butter. Somebody has to have standing in order to appeal.
That's correct.
I
Thank you,
like to
guys.
advise people
Right.
of the way the game is played.
Yeah,
So you
All right.
all can come to the bingo, okay? I'll give you all free
Hoping.
plays. You're gonna be there?
I'm hoping.
Okay, all right, let's take a step back and go to the minute of the 23rd of August. Is there any discussion, comment, questions?
I had a small. Line 150
Oh, I caught that one too.
should be a septic and well.
Yeah,
Okay.
nobody wants a septic well.
No, yuck, okay.
I don't drive well.
That's the only thing I found.
Okay, Whitney, you got that changed? Anything else?
Yep.
Nope.
We'll talk to you. Line 239.
239.
It's just the way that sentence wording it.
Considering as a separate, oh no,
Well, I'd suggest strike worth considering. And insert, might suggest that the various associations within the Shaker Village development be considered a potential zoning district.
Hmm.
So on line 240, does they refer to the Shaker Village property owners? Is that your intent?
It does, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe, maybe just change they to Shaker Village? line
He's on
240.
40.
They, what, fifth word?
Members agreed that the Shaker Village would. Right there.
I don't even see the word they.
Fifth word from the end.
Members agreed they,
Oh.
yeah, because your point wasn't the stakeholder piece, it was that it be considered a separate district, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
I think if you call a separate district, other people reading it would not wonder what this stakeholder was.
yeah,
That was my.
right.
You've been in academia too long, using all these big words.
I maintain the buildings the academe occupies.
Right.
I don't ever get involved with them too much. Anyway, so forth.
Okay. Are we ready to vote on the minutes?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes with changes presented.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Linda, were you here?
Doesn't make any difference.
No,
Doesn't make any difference.
That's right.
No. You can vote on it,
That's right. I forgot. This is New Hampshire.
right,
Especially when you can actually watch the meeting, the meetings after.
right.
That's true.
Yeah.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Minutes are accepted with changes. There are no conceptuals. New business. Anybody have any new business they want to talk about?
Well, I probably should have brought this up at the land use administrator's report, but maybe just so we can get it on this, agenda. And we talked about this before, getting a data sheet at every meeting or once a month or whatever makes sense of, building
New
permits.
permits.
How many building permits have been issued for single family homes or whatever. So it's basically a building inspector's reporting, yes. So just to say, if the board's amenable to that, I think we should ask for it. And that until we actually get it, it just stay on the old business list.
Okay.
Yeah.
how much work does that make for Liam?
Shouldn't be too much.
He probably already has a list, but he just
Right.
needs to.
Cause he's working on.
Right. Then he needs to shuffle a little bit.
I gotta imagine there's other needs for that
Right,
list.
that's what I mean, like, he's
Right.
probably already got the
Yeah.
list, it's just.
Yep.
Minor reformatting.
Yeah, we keep track of, especially the single family home starts. That's the big one for, census.
Right.
You want to know the gain or the net loss and, housing units.
All right, next, old business discussion on rules of procedure. Tim, you're kind of heading this up. Would you like to lead the discussion?
I brought it up on, I was trying to print a copy for everybody, but my printer failed me, so I brought it up on the big screen here. If you remember the document that, Tim had sent around, I had color coding. Yellow was proposed changes, green was questionable existing wording, and blue was optional wording, so. Go ahead.
Okay, and so, you all gave me permission to reformat the outline of the entire document way back when we first started this, so if you look for these paragraphs under the existing, if you're looking at an existing copy, the numbers will be different. But it didn't change any of the wording except what's shown here. And so the first item there, here and after referred to, that's just to eliminate, of course, having the right planning board. dozens of times.
Right.
And I think, procedure wise here, how do we want to do this? Do we just, unless there's somebody wants to object to something or we want to change something as we move on, we'll assume what we just talked about is okay. And then we'll take a final vote, I guess, if we will. So this question came up. This is not a proposed wording change, it's just a question, and it started in red. When we met with Ed, what's Ed's last name?
Morris.
When we met with Ed Morris to go over this with him, this question came up. Should alternates be allowed to participate if not elevated to fill an absent position? So, in other words,
My thinking, no, I mean, participate as far as the public.
Yeah.
Comments section goes, but beyond that, if you're not a sitting board member, you have no say in the decisions or conversation at that level.
We are a board of 7,
Right.
so if we have 7 members,
No, but if we had all 7 of us here,
Plus 3 alternates.
plus the 3 alternates, would they be allowed to?
Why would we not want them to participate?
I think if you participate at that level, I'm not a sitting member now, but the question you raised, I don't feel it would be all that justifiable, because all we're really doing is adding an additional comment. It's not even called for if you're in the structure of the board discussion. If you're in public hearing or public comments, then obviously everybody's open to speak.
Right.
But as an alternate to the board, if you're not elevated, you are a member of the public.
And you are a member of public. Yeah,
so our current rules and procedures says that yes, they can participate.
Right.
This was,
I always thought you could participate, you just couldn't vote.
that's what it says.
Yeah.
That's what our current
Right.
procedures say. Ed asked the question, you really want to do that? Or he's questioning us. Maybe we do.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that. Because
their
it
participation.
gives them a chance to learn the ropes by actively participating, so that when they are called to step up and be a full member, they at least have, some idea of what's going on. And I think also it keeps alternates interested, because if they sit through a public hearing week after week after week, and they're relegated to the audience and can make very few comments or questions, it's been my experience with other land use boards that people just lose interest.
Alternates don't show up. Is what happens.
That would be losing interest.
Right.
Yes.
That became pretty obvious last night. When zoning board had 3 people and no alternates showed up either.
Mm-hmm. So that's my
Maybe.
rationale for it.
And they meet every 2 months, and they haven't met for 2 months.
Yeah.
Another rationale in favor would be if the hearing got continued to a future date, and at that future date, one of the seated
Right.
members wasn't able to attend and the alternate
Yeah.
was elevated, they would have participated in a meaningful way
Mhm.
the whole way through the hearing.
That's a good point. And another good,
I think that's the best point.
Right.
I agree.
okay.
So it seems the consensus is that we'll just strike this question, leave the wording is in.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
Agreed.
You can,
you're gonna be able to participate if you're an alternate.
Yes.
define participate.
Ask questions, be at the table, ask questions,
Voice opinion,
voice opinions.
Comments.
do
You
everything
can't vote.
but vote.
Right.
Okay, that's
Everything
what I
but vote.
wanted. to
Yeah,
know,
everything but vote.
Because
Right.
to suddenly have,
No, it's everything but vote,
okay,
because only the sitting members can vote. But I agree with that because we're gonna have continuing ones. We know of at least two possibles that's not gonna get done in 1 month
Right.
and may go over 2 or 3 months.
Scroll up real quick to the, I forgot the, color scheme here. What green?
It's questionable.
Wording, okay.
Yeah, which you've got under 9. And I think you get rid of it.
Get rid of it?
Yeah,
I'm not sure what's the point of listing it.
right. I mean, you gotta put, you don't even have to have good reason.
I think, is the state law that you have to have Eric, do you remember that from, selectmen stuff? The state law, I think you do have to state your reason why you were unable to be there. If you're participating remotely. I know that.
I don't know the answer what the law was, but if the law is that you just have to state it, then we don't have to make a judgment on the reason.
Right,
Exactly.
exactly.
Right.
Cause if I'm on leisure travel and I wanna pump in, I can,
Yep.
cause I've done it.
So.
That's what we
And that's
want.
exactly right, it is, yeah,
We just leave it with good reason.
with good reason.
Or period.
Yeah, period.
And strike the.
I don't even think you need to say with good reason, just ended up may elect to participate remotely.
Period.
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 Yep, I like.
Yep.
Moving on. Formatting?
Yellow. Okay, so the first item here, the paragraph A got changed. Kurt suggested that first item, little I. So we need to talk about that.
No,
Know what?
no, I don't agree.
I disagree with that one too, little I. I think if the chairman's got all the knowledge and he wants to serve more than 3 terms, go for
I
it.
think it's a lifetime appointment.
Because,
Hey,
like a Supreme Court.
Only when you decide, only if he decides not to
who's
run.
bribing me?
Right.
I want jet travel.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's no need for that.
I have no opinion on it, really.
As the chairperson, I'm gonna stay out of the discussion.
I mean, is the chairperson gonna get, if he stays more than 3 terms, gonna, build an empire or control the entire board? I don't think so.
No,
I don't
I
think so
mean-
either.
No,
you've got 6 other people
Exactly.
that are voting.
we're gonna set him in his place if we have to.
As long as it's not regulated by state law, which obviously it's not, because it would have been there already, I'd say take it out.
Agree.
Rob, do you have the ability to edit that?
Right here, right now?
Yeah. Just, highlight that and delete it. It should reformat anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you can leave tracking. All right, good. Okay, this next one was one that I wrote. Again, it's not part of the existing regs.
You mean when an individual board member requests, not
Okay,
where?
yeah, when, yeah. Can you do that, Rob?
Change where to when. I don't care. Yeah,
Mr. Chair,
My thought on this, and this is my own bias against information overload. I like to define relevance to the board as something or a topic that is either currently under discussion or will be under discussion at some point within the next month or so. And I think if, there's a request from a member to distribute something that we may not take up at all or is not germane to anything on the anticipated, agenda, my thought is that the requesting person should hang on to that information until it becomes more relevant. But again, that's my bias against information overload.
Well, I would suggest what you've just described is how you're going to exercise your authority. And so,
It is.
yeah,
Yeah.
and which is fine, you're the chairman. What the wording also, the provision here in the wording is that if, say I wanted to send something to the rest of the board members, an educational item, and we in fact had a little.
We had a back and forth.
We had a back and forth about that. You didn't want to send it. Okay, great. I acknowledge that. And then, but I could come to the board the next meeting saying, I've got this document I'd like to send you all digital copies of. And, David says I can't. What do you guys think? Or something to that.
Yeah.
effect. In other words, the board can overrule the chair.
Yeah,
Right, exactly.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I agree.
And nothing more than that. I mean,
No.
But don't we already have this in place? Where
We do not.
we don't communicate directly?
Well,
with the
no,
whole
he would
board?
send it-
We would
He would send it to Rob.
We'd send it to Rob or we'd send it to Dave.
Right, that's what this is codifying is that, yes, I would send it to Dave, but Dave can say that, look, I don't think this is, for whatever reason, I don't want to send this to the board right now, or it's a document for other reasons, I don't want to send it to the board. And that's what it says here, that he can make that ruling. And then if I object to that, I have to come to the board and explain the reason why I wanted to send it to you all, and you guys could either overrule him or sustain his decision. If that's okay, we'll move on.
Everybody comfortable with it?
Just get rid of the ERE.
It's tracking changes.
It's tracking, okay.
All right, next. Land use.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, this next clause, I wrote that, Ed suggested that we take it out, and after discussions with Ed, I agree with him. So we can either skip over that entirely and
kill it all.
fill it all. Okay, and this one,
This is an ad.
yeah.
Yeah.
This was just acknowledging a procedural thing we were doing just as a matter of courtesy, I suppose, but it seems like we ought to codify that. So we don't wanna, each of us can't, or really shouldn't go up to Rob and say, Rob, I need 12 copies of,
Right.
pull out a site plan review from 12 years ago and make me 12 copies of it. No.
Has to go through Dave.
Go through Dave.
Yeah,
That's okay.
Yep, fine with that.
right.
More work for me, thanks, guys. But yeah, I think that's appropriate.
You can delegate
Can I?
to the vice president, yes.
I delegate it to the secretary.
Okay, there you go.
And again, the last,
Bingo.
Bingo.
the last sentence of that says the board can overrule the chair's decision. This next section on meetings. I had simplified this a bit because the previous wording talked about it on the second and fourth Tuesday or Wednesday.
Doesn't need to be in here.
Right.
Yeah, it did need to be in there and then Ed said, well, they don't even really need to put in here that it has to have adequate public car parking and meeting spaces because the laws require that anyway.
It doesn't have to be a town-owned venue either, because if we do a site plan, if we do a site visit, that's not on a town, but it is a meeting.
Yep.
At Doris Farm.
And this next series of items here, that I attempted to clarify what and how emails could be done, but Ed said that he's actually gonna prepare a town-wide policy on that and that each board could then follow.
Yeah.
So there was no reason to get too detailed about that other than what,
Cause there's been issues with some boards that,
Yeah, I mean, it's codified in the right to know open meeting law. And, you know, if Ed can come up with a simple, policy statement that goes to all boards, I think that would cover it, and we don't really need to put it into our procedures manual.
okay, scroll on down. Keep going. This is all part of that.
That's all part of it.
We're going to number 8.
recusal.
And I highlighted this because I could not make heads or tails out of what that was trying to say. I mean, I think I know what they were trying to say. but
Right.
It just seemed convoluted.
Right, cause no matter what, you have to follow 673-14, which basically says you can't make somebody recuse.
Oh, you can't.
You can't,
Cannot.
it's up to the
It's
individual
up to the
person.
individual. You cannot make anyone recuse.
Wow.
You can suggest.
Now I understand.
Now you know the Supreme Court.
Now I understand something. Yeah.
You know, it can come up as an issue on appeal,
Right, yeah,
but as far as anything that goes on at our level, it's up to the person, to state whether or not they have grounds to recuse themselves.
And the select board follows the same.
everyone has to, yeah, 673-14 covers all all boards in the state. And it specifically says.
Even when there's a conflict of interest.
Well, when there's a conflict of interest, the person should recuse themselves,
But you can't.
Should, but you can't force it.
but you can't
Can't
force
force
them.
anything.
Now, there's nothing in, if we strike this green section entirely,
Yeah.
there's nothing that says, I know you have
Nope,
an interest in this project outside of, you know, personal gain,
Right.
and I think you should refuse.
Right.
We're not gonna vote on it, but nothing says that I couldn't, as a board member, challenge you.
we
At
can
least Bring
even,
up the topic.
right, we can even
Absolutely.
vote on it. And still can't
It's an advisory
make it
board.
happen.
Yeah.
It's advisory.
And that's what that green section says, the
But
last sentence says,
but
it
if
is
you-
advisory,
If
non-binding.
you do vote on it and it's in the minutes and it goes to appeal,
You bet,
then that gives more grounds for the appeal.
exactly,
Yes.
yes,
Okay, got it.
I don't think Ed had any particular problem with this, it's just that I just wanted to highlight it, I guess, so we could leave it in here.
It's a
or we
bit
can take it out.
confusing, I will admit.
I think the one advantage of having it is that then people don't have to go and look at the RSA.
right,
Right.
yeah. Right, Yeah.
Which I'm sure is crystal clear.
No,
And well.
I agree, it's confusing, but the one advantage to having some of that language in here is, so you don't have to go to the RSA.
right,
So we'll just leave it.
Leave it.
All right, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not gonna cut that off.
We've added the administrative report,
Yeah.
order of business.
I do have one suggestion here. Should we consider having public hearings first? I know we've gone back
Before
over the
minutes.
years.
and even before administrative.
Yeah, the select board they do it first, don't they?
We do.
Yeah.
I think that's just good manners.
It's a good idea.
Yeah,
I'd like to see that change.
But another way of doing it is to say that their hearing's at 7 o'clock and we finish whatever we're doing at 7
Yeah, it doesn't always happen though.
and,
yeah, the problem with that is you can't start before 7.
right, yeah.
You can start after, but you can't start before.
Yeah, so the cleanest way is to do it first.
Do the conceptuals and then public hearings.
So I think you meant we open the meeting at 6:30, we take care of administrative stuff, until 7 o'clock, we cease what we're doing, and that's when the hearing starts.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
not-
but if we only
And what
want,
happens if it's 6:45?
Yeah.
Then we have to sit for 15 minutes.
15 minutes because it's a hearing.
That's
So it's
why,
better to be first.
yeah.
I like it. You're serving your customers. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what,
Mhm. So,
I
but,
mean, the school board even holds their public hearings before they basically call it to order and then hold the public hearing right then.
Yeah, that makes
Nothing
sense.
else.
so we'll do
Yeah.
call to order, roll call, public
Public
hearing.
hearings, conceptuals, public hearings.
Well,
Why not,
Public hearings,
do the
acceptable.
scheduled public hearings first?
Okay,
If you,
Okay,
I would do public hearings first because
then conceptuals.
conceptuals is Luther.
Highlight all of G and then just right click and drag it to the top.
perfect. You can cut it.
Well,
Then you cut and paste
No,
work.
cut and paste.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Talent, I'm telling you.
Yep.
that'll work.
we don't
So
have conceptuals in there.
There we go.
let's add conceptuals.
Add conceptuals
As
as
D.
D.
That's the,
There you go.
And then let's do, public comments.
Okay, hold on, it's down here.
oh, that's the question though. Should public comments be before?
All right, that's when you ask if anyone has anything they want to bring
Right
up
after the
tonight that's not scheduled.
Just to put it on the agenda and then talk about it when? At that time, right after
Well,
roll
yeah, the
call?
public comment. It's a comment, you don't have to respond to comments. No,
That's true.
school boards prove that. They come out and say, we will get back to you before the next meeting. Someone will get back to you.
Okay.
That works.
So then,
The
yeah,
public comments should come back.
So we've got it now as first item after public hearings and conceptuals is public comment. Is that good?
I
No,
think we
before.
decided to move public comment after roll call,
Yeah.
before
very good.
public hearings.
Because in most cases, there aren't any.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
There's no F.
I'll sort that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we done with that?
Think so.
How did we leave it with that a meeting had to be in a public building?
Doesn't have to.
doesn't have to be.
Did we cross it out or?
Yeah.
How did,
Yes.
okay,
we crossed it out.
because if lightning struck here and we could go meet in the Methodist church basement because it was offered,
Right.
we could do that in an emergency.
Mhm. And as Rob said, a site plan visit is a public meeting, but it's on private property.
I still don't remember if we
Yeah.
had left those.
No, we got rid of it. We scratched it out.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, back down to next part or packets.
So we just codified what I asked about earlier this night, tonight.
Yeah, if there's something that went through the zoning board, we'd want to see.
Gotcha.
Is
Yeah.
it supposed to be special exception or variance?
Why don't we just say a ZBA
Decision.
action or decision?
Well, it's the all, that's the problem.
I have a question on this. Since the ZBA meets the day before we do, what is the practicality of us actually having relevant minutes and or decisions the next day?
I could most likely do the minutes and.
Well, so,
Short-term
if
Yeah.
you recall, your first meeting is not typically a hearing.
Right.
And the decision's the one that is the really important.
Right.
Yeah,
Because if they give a very specific, I mean, there've been cases where they gave a very specific variance and different people
Right.
represented that decision in different ways.
Mhm.
Whereas the minutes, they're valuable, but it's more important to have a decision.
Yeah, and the other problem you've got there is by rights. If they were to get something from the ZBA, that's appealable for 30 days. We shouldn't even be able, we could make a decision at the end of that month that the ZBA is appealable. Yeah, if we approve something and somebody has been at the ZBA and it gets appealed, our decision doesn't get appealed, theirs does.
Yeah.
So does there have to be 30 days between when the ZBA approval is and when we can take it up?
well, could we
Or
make,
is ours automatically null and void,
Yeah, you could make a condition of your approval subject to.
subject to the ZBA's
Appeal.
appealable, okay, appeal
Mhm.
position?
We'd have to make a
Just like-
condition.
Okay,
Cause like Charlestown, New Hampshire had a relevant case recently where they approved some building permits.
right,
And then on appeal to some other decisions, it turned out that the access had been abandoned 1890 something.
Right.
And then they had to remove the building permits because they'd gotten ahead of themselves.
So we're saying that,
Yeah,
that
we need those documents.
absent a
right.
a specific bit of time, we should not.
We should get these documents,
Yeah.
yeah. We have to have them.
We have to.
And we just tell the applicant, you do understand that the zoning board and our decision is appealable.
So we leave that?
Yeah.
Other than the or instead of the of.
I did.
So or instead of of.
Okay. Rolling down.
I can't remember exactly what I changed here. I think that part of this was just changing the order of what was listed in the original document. Let me look that up. Sorry, I didn't. Okay, 1, 2. Actually, I didn't change anything in item 2.
Okay.
3. 3, is new, not new.
I think you've expanded on it,
Yeah,
Right.
expanded on it.
which I think is a good and necessary expansion.
Yeah, we used to do that back in the old days. We
What,
used to
ask
make
if
a
it's
motion
complete?
as to whether or not it's complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should go back to
Yeah,
it.
I do too.
Okay.
Because if it's incomplete, it doesn't go any further.
Yeah,
End of public hearing.
I'm fine with 4 too.
Thank you everyone for coming.
yeah.
I think that's important. Number
Yes.
4.
Yeah,
And number 5,
boy,
Dave did that exactly as suggested in
Yeah,
tonight.
followed the book. Yeah.
I followed the rules for once.
Just, one other question on 4. Do we wanna explicitly state that the remote media is provided as a
as a courtesy,
courtesy and best practice, but is in no way guaranteed?
right,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
put that disclaimer on all my agendas.
Yeah, I know you do. and
Yeah, but it
you
needs to
should,
be
because it's
right
very,
there.
it's a very important piece, that's a courtesy, and we've had this case in other boards where somebody couldn't get through and sorry.
Mhm.
I mean, we feel bad, but
Not that bad.
yeah, but sorry.
We gave up our time
Yeah.
to be here.
Yeah.
I mean, my feeling is we gave up our time to be here. You're the applicant, you should be here.
Yeah.
That's my
Exactly.
feeling.
I agree.
Well, we've had, the actual client or, town resident online and their attorney or their survey guy is here type of deal.
And that-
So
and
that's
that's
fine.
perfectly.
And that's
fine.
perfectly
That's
fine.
fine.
I don't like talking to an egg.
So Rob, just write the word disclaimer in red or something there and I'll stick that in there.
But
Where do you want-
we've also had situations where the applicant has been for instance, cell phone tower company where the representative is in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Do we want to make him come all the way up? Or can we work with,
Well, whoever's acting as the primary representative of the applicant would need to be here.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Somebody had.
There's gotta be somebody here as far as I'm concerned.
We've done it with tree cutting too.
Right.
I'm
But that's
fine.
not normally a site plan. Yeah. Should it just be for site plans?
They have to show what trees they're cutting and.
Yeah.
I mean, so my view is I'm fine with remote participation as long as they understand, like that's a courtesy, and if there's any problem,
Okay.
we're not gonna make a decision just because it was on the agenda. If for any reason the technology prevents us from seeing documents at the right size
Right.
or
I
having
just think it's
questions,
much harder to do it,
I think it's harder to do.
much
remotely.
harder, and I think that you miss a lot.
Right, but the onus to do it is on
It's up
them,
to them. If
not on
if it
us.
doesn't get approved, then
Cause I guess that's the piece that's,
Right,
I'm perfectly fine if people want to attend remotely. But that puts the onus on them to make sure everything's communicated, not on
Right.
us to try to
Agreed.
figure it out.
Agreed,
Yeah.
but there's a certain amount of frustration from our part, from
Yeah.
this board having to put up with it.
And I'm fine with whatever
And if
decision's made on
And
this.
if we're here in this room
Yeah.
and they want something approved, I think they should come, period, end of discussion. I don't care. I don't care if they're from Massachusetts.
So I think if the owner of the applicant designates someone to be their primary representative.
Fine.
They're gonna do their talking, they're gonna make the speech, they're gonna show make the presentation here in person.
Yep.
oh, I agree.
And they may have an attorney or
Right.
somebody else.
No problem.
No problem. As long as they've got a person doing the talking sitting here.
So what it says, is
My humble opinion.
one person acting as the primary representative applicant must physically attend the meeting.
Okay.
And then we're gonna
That
write a
works.
disclaimer to cover your point,
Right.
which I don't want to wordsmith tonight.
Yeah.
There's a detail that goes along with this that I don't think we can put in regulations, but I think that if someone is speaking, if they're remote and they're speaking to an issue and they have, turned their camera off, I'd like to have their camera turned on or ask them to turn their camera on so we can see who's speaking. Because we've had a few where they just were black. And I don't know,
Well, it's,
There are still a few people who have landlines.
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
that's right.
My computer doesn't have a camera. My
Um,
tablet does, but my computer doesn't.
My computer doesn't either,
Right.
just our laptop.
well, I think the
Right.
chairman could probably request that the speaker, the remote speaker. Sure. Turn their video on.
If available.
if available, yeah.
But again, the primary representative will
Gotta be here anyway.
Yeah.
And I agree with.
Another reason to have someone here.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I
Moving
think
on.
we were okay with 5.
Yeah, life is good.
Bottom line of page. From 5 to 8. Oh.
Now, why did Ed recommend we strike this? Do
Oh, that's a good question.
you remember, Rob? Or was that you, David?
That's a high bar. It sounds like a
Right.
VA
Yeah,
type
yeah,
language.
right. Yeah, we don't have to,
Yeah, I mean, it's,
The minutes
It's
record
complete,
our
it's complete.
discussion.
right,
and the decision basically summarizes
Yeah.
the discussion.
yeah,
So, you know,
Right,
if,
yeah.
if somebody wants the background on the decision, if they find something that's not explained, they can go back to the minutes, they can go back to the video.
right.
But I like to think that most of my decisions are written and well explained so that somebody who knows nothing about it can have an idea of the factors that we considered.
So we're gonna strike that? That's in yellow?
Yes.
I'd like to
Yeah.
strike it.
Okay,
Striking.
I'm fine with it. Just, mark that out, Rob, please. Strike all the yellow there. Yep. Yeah, so this was a question. I've never gone to a joint meeting, so I don't know how these things have typically been run. Have you ever had a joint meeting with the CC?
Now the CC, we had one with the zoning board
Yeah,
at one point in time.
Once in all the time that I've been
Right.
here, which is probably 3 or 4 years.
Right, and we
Maybe
called
more.
the meeting, so we were considered the chair. The chairman was
I
considered.
think that's in state law.
I think it's a state law that the planning
We
board
called
has
it.
the chair,
Exactly,
and we
Yeah.
did that one on Zoom, didn't we?
I think
You
so.
might have.
we did. Yeah, we did do it on Zoom.
Yeah.
That was a tough one.
But that was a,
So the answer to this question is yes?
yes,
Okay, yeah, I'll have to tuck in some words there that make that happen.
Okay,
And,
yeah, because if we hold them with the ZBA, we have to chair it. Cause the ZBA is a judicial board.
We have to chair?
yes, and that's in state law.
Yeah, we have to chair it because they're a judicial board. We're a fact finding board.
Oh,
So do we need, was it for there at all?
Yeah, we could just strike. the whole
Yeah, just
sentence.
Christ.
Yeah.
Strike the law.
Yeah. Follow the law.
Why don't we just strike the whole sentence?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
This whole sentence here? Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah. As well as the red.
Why don't you just delete number 4?
That's what I'm trying to do, but it's.
Oh, that's,
It tries
okay.
to changes it,
Okay.
does it at the end.
So this just seemed to me. Actually, I don't know. I think this was just to simplify this section, because there's really no reason to repeat.
Yeah, that strikes me as repeating.
yeah.
Yeah.
Redundant.
Okay. Almost done. Oh, we're
Yeah.
done.
We are done.
We are done.
We are done.
I forgot to mention at the beginning of the outset that I did get an email from Bert for the document with his recommended changes. Would you like to review his? Well, a lot of that's new. He sent me what he wanted to have included here at the beginning of the summer. Okay. But if he's got something new, do you want to take it up or?
I know you changed your last name,
Yeah,
Brad Rick.
Frederick. Be rich, last time I knew. The man with 2 first names. Story of my life.
I don't have any objection to taking up what Kurt has sent last week.
Can you summarize it? Is it a lengthy document?
I'm sure it's lengthy. Only Kurt.
Kurt's comments. Bold.
Okay,
He agrees.
covered that.
Covered that.
Yes, rotating chair with the board.
Cover that.
Disagree.
Yeah.
You okay with that?
Okay, so he's basically offering his comments on.
Right, yeah.
what
Yeah.
Chris did, so.
I think if that's all that he's doing, and if there's nothing new, maybe just scroll through it quickly. I don't think we need to restate the RSA.
Right.
Yes, leave it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leave it.
Yeah.
Yep. Simpatico. We disagree there, but sort of.
Board members are not required to show up in person.
We're not,
Right.
but, all of that, I think, is just,
Right.
takes up space.
Yeah.
That's state law required, right? For a roll
Right.
call.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't need that, the RSA.
Joint meeting.
I don't think we need to get into
No.
court decisions,
No.
procedures.
No,
That's it?
Satisfied.
All right.
I will send you back the document, a little bit of. Yep. I'll polish that up and then we'll send it back for final vote next time. Awesome.
Yeah,
approval.
Final vote and signatures.
okay. Next meeting, September 27, unless there's any old business, any more old business that needs
Yes,
to be
yes.
discussed.
Well, two things. We suggested, I just read in the minutes, I'd forgotten this, that we'd, you had a, stakeholder list. Yes. To give to Brandy. We suggested it be organized in categories. I wondered if you could make that available somehow so that we think of, stakeholders in the ensuing weeks that we could suggest that be added. I'll send out the most recent edit. Stakeholders.
That's a good idea.
And lastly, we requested a legal opinion of those R1 questions that Kurt and I raised. I'm just curious where that is.
Ed killed that until we have an actual physical application in hand. And since he's town manager and writes the checks, unless we want to go out and hire an attorney for his opinion, his or her opinion, which may or may not be the same as our town council's opinion, I think we have to live with its decision, like it or not.
Well, I'm not sure what to think about that. I'm surprised. I mean, here we have a board that deadlocked on the interpretation of the zoning provision. It seems that we should clarify what the gospel is before the applicant even submits an application.
You know who clarifies the gospel? it's the judge when it goes to appeal.
Can we not avoid having it to go that route?
I don't
By-
think so.
By just getting a legal opinion about how we should interpret our own zoning ordinance.
Well, the municipal association will not provide a legal
I
interpretation.
understand the reason why for that. That makes sense.
And
That has nothing to do though with the question I'm really asking.
I understand the question you're asking. I think it needs to be resolved. But the guy who writes the checks says, I'm not writing a check based on a hypothetical, even though, you know, the board as a whole thinks it's, something that should be resolved sooner than later. And I hope I'm speaking for all the board members when I say the board as a whole thinks it should be resolved sooner rather than later.
Well, to that end, I think we should send an even strongly worded memo to Ed saying that we want this, we highly recommend this be resolved before we get involved in these big, applications that are coming up. So is that a motion? Someone may not want to second it, but I understand, but I want to make the motion.
This time, we have been told no for
I
this time
usually
around.
don't take the first no as the gospel. I really think we should push back on this.
I think we should wait, like he says, until we have an issue that we can apply it to.
I think there are more important issues that are worthwhile putting up a fight with the town manager. Not to say that this is not an important issue, but my guess is that we would have a conceptual before we have an application. And I would further suggest that once we have a conceptual, that might be enough to push Ed into letting us confer with the lawyer.
Trying to find an alternative path. Does the regional planning commission have any resources we can reach out to?
I don't, not
They're
legal.
not legal.
No, okay.
You know, we can have a GoFundMe page.
No.
Well,
They're an organization that does planning in the state.
Yeah,
Trying to find alternative people we can approach and ask the question to who might have had this come up before.
I'm just, I find it hard to believe that we're gonna have an applicant go through the process of putting an application together. He gets to the board and we tell him that we don't know what our ordinance says on the particular issue in front of us. Now, we voted as a kind of show of hands, what we thought of the interpretations that Kurt and I came up with.
Mhm.
I think we deadlocked them.
we were split.
So I'm thinking, what are we doing here? We're throwing a wrench in the whole works. How do you respond to an applicant who's like,
I think what would happen in the practical sense is we would have to have a vote and there'd be an odd number of us, hopefully. And the vote would go one way or the other.
Yeah, you weren't here, so that's why
in all
we were deadlocked.
Administrative decisions that I make are appealable to the zoning board. So if I said, this is what I think that the interpretation is, somebody could say, you're wrong, taking it to the ZBA.
Right.
And we could appeal it as a board.
And the ZBA can adjudicate. Right? Yep.
Right.
And then it goes to court.
And then, yeah, if somebody's not satisfied with the ZBA's
The
rule,
housing,
you take it to housing appeals.
they
or you
take it
could
to housing appeals,
Or you could take it to.
which has the most
Superior Court.
loose interpretation of most of the zoning regulations within the state.
The new housing appeals board is definitely
I
designed to
understand that,
so
but
that
it
it's favorable
seems
to
that
housing.
when an applicant sits in front of us, we ought to have a clear understanding of what our zoning ordinance says. And then we make a decision based on that understanding. And I can see it if either they or a member of the public or a body should object to
Right.
that, but it just feels like it's not a professional way to handle it. These cases go.
I think we have to accept the fact that there are sections of our zoning regs as they currently exist that be kind are lacking. And basically, you know, they're not crystal clear. As we have discovered.
I guess the other side of that, David, though, is, you know, if we find out it's not crystal clear and the lawyer says it isn't crystal clear, we can change it for March. If we're sitting around like this until April, and it's another year.
Yeah.
I mean, because, yeah, we deadlocked on that issue. We knew what we wanted it to say, and we knew we thought it said, and we knew what we thought we wanted it to say. But if it doesn't say that, then it needs to be fixed. And I guess the only way we can, because Schindberg may not be in here for another 6 months. And any changes we make to zoning, we have to make by November in order to get them ready for public hearings in January.
I have an idea. I
Okay,
don't know if it will work or not. We have a bunch of money that we are paying to PlaySense to rewrite our zoning. Can we
get that,
Ask-
right, that
ask
section.
them to rewrite that particular section so it is completely undisputably clear as to what it says?
Well, before we do that, and I like that idea, why don't we just ask PlaySense their opinion of the issue that Kurt and I raised?
Well, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that would be the opening
Right,
question
say.
that we, you know, we say, hey, our board does not really have a clear understanding of what this section says. Would you, you know, this is what half the board believes, this is what the other half of the board believes. You've put together, I think, a very good document, which could, be used to send to them, to give them the pros and the cons. And ask them to opine and ask them for a suggestion as to what it should say to be clearer and to, be, you know, in line with current planning standards and best practices.
Yeah, and if they gave an opinion, one way or the other, I think I'd be happy with that. I
Yeah.
feel like we've got a professional, we're turning this over to a professional. We can look at this
right.
third party, disinterested, make a decision as to how we should interpret our own ordinance present.
Mhm.
Right.
As far as the rest of it goes, I frankly told him, I did tell him, I think we should just pretend the ordinance just doesn't exist.
Yes, right.
Write a brand new ordinance
Right.
so that issue would naturally get resolved.
Fixed.
Yeah, I mean, you know, eventually in their rewrite, I'm sure it would be, but I think given the potential for applications for which we would need to have an interpretation of that ordinance, of that section.
In the meantime,
you know,
good idea. Let's
So,
do
yeah,
I'm okay.
I think it would be,
and if they say it's confusing, then we need to fix it,
Right.
aside from the entire package.
Well, then if they
Yeah.
say it's confusing, then maybe go back to Ed and say, look, even they,
Right. Well, I
well,
mean, we can fix it.
I mean, if they
Right.
say it's,
You
if
say,
they
oh, we know we
say,
need to rewrite it.
if they say it's
For March.
confusing,
Right,
then we as a board have to decide what we want,
right,
have PlaySense put our thoughts into legally sound verbiage,
right.
and then we put that before the voters in March.
March, right. Aside from the whole package. That's what I
Right,
mean. You fix it because you know you got an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a pressing issue.
And it's a pressing issue because you're going to have probably two large applications that are gonna you're right. As soon as they show up, we're gonna have to make a decision. Or somebody's gonna make it for us.
Do you want,
What do I want?
this board want?
Oh, we were split.
Well, I'm hearing,
Oh,
You
we're
wanna give
split
it
on the
place,
interpretation.
no, I'm hearing from Tim that our course of action should be to take Tim's document, which basically spells out the pros and cons and the different and opposing interpretations, send it over to Playsets and ask them to opine on what they think it means, get back to us. And
We'll revote,
what?
and we'll revote based on that opinion.
We will revote, and if, you know, if the board is agreed with what they think it means, then we go to them and we say, can you make this a little bit clearer? Can you propose language?
To your question, I don't like her and my interpretation.
I want their interpretation of the thing itself.
Well, no. What I'm
He asked a
saying,
different question. So
Yeah.
answering a different question.
Right.
so the question is, what do we want the ordinance to say on this topic? In other words, one building, one lot, and then the question of how many units can you put in an apartment building? You know, what's the formula for that? I personally don't like specifying you can only have one building on one lot.
Right.
I think that's what our ordinance currently requires, though. That's why we brought this up in the first place. And then the second part about, does it matter how many units you put in a building? I actually I think I lean towards agreeing that really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think
That's gonna
that,
be up to the fire code and all.
exactly.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I mean, the real issue we had was the one building, one lot.
well,
Cause we got stuck on what's a principal building.
Yeah,
That's what we got stuck on.
and
If I've got two buildings on there and I say, well, that's my principal one, but that's an ADU, but it's just real big ADU.
I tend to feel like
Yeah,
if you got I don't know, a 3 acre lot and and you wanna put 4 or 5 buildings on there, then
right.
great, fine. What's wrong with that? I'm not, I mean, then we've gotta go through
Right,
all
'cause
the
the case-
process.
The case we're talking about is the 75 acre lot that they want to keep as one big lot. And basically with the interpretation of 1 to 1, then you got to make it into 6 lots so we can have 6 buildings.
Or go to the ZBA,
Or go to the ZBA.
which is a step that I wish they would just do right now. Just do that and clear this whole thing up.
But would you want to see 3 trailers on your house lot with your
Well, I have a,
main building?
touchy subject. I don't want to talk about that tonight because it's related, but it's not directly related to what I'm talking about. It's a detail.
Right.
That I think, I personally need some guidance on, from Brandy's people.
Yeah, so can we get Grandy's people to just look at the ordinance, forget the pros and cons.
Yeah.
Look at the ordinance. What do you think? What does the ordinance say
Right.
to you?
Yeah.
That way, they're not getting
Yeah, they're not swayed.
outside stuff.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Just, this is the ordinance we're having a problem with. What does it say to you?
And right now, they're supposed to be reviewing our current ordinances,
Right.
so maybe they even have the answer already.
Right,
Yeah, they're due back in October to us.
But it would be nice if they could send us a memo.
right,
I would think that's possible.
yeah,
Next meeting would be great.
yeah, or at least the first
I
one
don't
in
know if they could
October.
turn it around in 2 weeks, but.
The first one
it's
in
possible.
October.
Give it a whirl.
Okay.
Yeah,
Rob, you wanna reach out to Play Sense?
Sure.
And ask them to interpret that particular clause or clauses in the ordinance?
And then don't say anything else.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
that's it,
I
yeah,
like what Dave said. I don't think, Kurt and our memo, I don't think was, it didn't fully lay out the pros and cons. You know, we had our interpretation.
right.
So I think you should explain your interpretation to them.
No, I don't.
No,
no, no.
no,
All you say is that the board is having a problem with this particular language. Could you give us your opinion of what you think this means?
Yeah,
Right,
Stop.
Right, stop.
stop,
Then have them tell us what they think it means, and that will say more than anything.
Right.
yeah,
yeah.
Should you have to give them a hypothetical?
No,
No.
I don't have to, there is
No.
no hypothetical to that.
you give,
The question is, does
what
it
does,
say?
what does the ordinance say?
Right, what does this ordinance say? Does it say you can only put one building?
And we have a disagreement
I don't
amongst the board, so she knows that it's.
Yeah.
I gotta give them a hypothetical.
The
I
board is
don't.
divided on what it says, and tell us what you think it
If you don't
says.
give them the question, they can't give you an answer.
Well, I think we
Can
can,
you, okay, the question is, can you put more than one principal
That's
building
hypothetical.
on this, on a
That's the
lot?
hypothetical.
That's the hypothetical, that's,
That's what I mean.
the second question is, if you have a multifamily home, multifamily
building.
building on a lot,
Yeah.
what, if anything, determines how many living units you can have in that, in the R1 district on municipal sewer? Those are the two questions.
Okay.
I
Can
I think
we,
it has to have municipal water also,
No,
can,
just sewer,
just sewer.
just sewer.
can we
Yeah.
rephrase that second question to bring in the quarter acre per dwelling unit?
Well,
Because-
that's already in the
That's
ordinance.
that's in the ordinance. They'll see
They'll
that.
see
Okay.
If you have, the hypothetical is if I have a 10-acre lot in the quarter, with a quarter acre minimum, how many units can I put on that lot? Can I put
in,
40
in,
units or
In one,
in one building?
in a single
In a-
or multiple
multiple
buildings?
buildings.
yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah,
That's actually, Dan, I think you've just come up with the wording of the question.
can I put it in, do I have to put it all in one building or can I put it in multiple buildings?
And how does that then become, an auxiliary dwelling unit?
Well, it's not-
Other-
We're not
We're not
talking
saying it.
ADUs.
We're not saying it has to be an ADU. We're just asking, can I put that on that 10-acre lot? Do I have to put all those units in one building or can I put them in more than one building? Cause it says I can do 40 units, basically.
Mhm.
Well, no, Kurt and I disagree with that.
I know you do.
So they've got a rule on that.
Right,
I think our argument's probably weaker on that
yeah,
point, but in any event,
cause I know I don't have to put 40 single ones. I hope I don't have to put 40 single on a 10-acre lot.
Okay.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
Because if it does say that, we gotta fix that.
All right, we are adjourned at 8:35.
You have a 10-acre lot, but you've got to put 40 buildings on it.